The medallion should never have fallen out. Chen froze as the polished metal clinked onto her workbench, its secret inscription glinting under the harsh lights. Sergeant Rodriguez picked it up before she could stop him. His hands trembled as he read the numbers that weren't supposed to exist. Numbers that would change everything. Numbers that proved the quiet woman who never talked about her past wasn't who she claimed to be. Chen's fingers moved across the Barrett M107's components with surgical precision, each movement economical and sure. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in the armory basement of Camp Mitchell, casting harsh shadows across weapon racks that stretched like metallic ribs from floor to ceiling. At 32, Maya possessed the kind of forgettable appearance that made people struggle to recall her face minutes after meeting her. Average height, black hair pulled into a regulation bun, hands that spoke in the quiet language of tools rather than words. She'd been working the armory for 2 years since her transfer from what her personnel file vaguely described as overseas logistics support. Sergeant Danny Rodriguez approached her station, dragging a rifle case that had clearly seen better decades. "Chen, need this beast ready by 1400 hours, he said, dropping the case beside her bench with a metallic thud. "Bolts seized tighter than Fort Knox, and the brass wants it perfect for tomorrow's VIP demonstration." Maya glanced up from the M, for she'd been reassembling, her dark eyes taking in the battered case without visible emotion. "No problem, Sergeant. Should have it singing by noon." The moment Rodriguez's boots disappeared up the concrete stairs, Maya opened the rifle case with movements that seemed almost reverent. The Barrett M107 lay nestled in foam padding, its massive frame designed for reaching across impossible distances. She lifted the rifle with both hands, feeling familiar weight distribution that triggered muscle memory from places she tried not to visit during daylight hours. The weapon was indeed jammed, its bolt frozen between positions. Maya carried it to her workbench and began field stripping the rifle with movements that flowed like water. Her hands found receiver pins without looking, fingers dancing across surfaces most armory techs would approach with manual in hand. As she worked, Maya felt the familiar meditation that came with mechanical precision. The jam was caused by carbon buildup, a bend extractor, and desert sand that had somehow found its way into the receiver despite this weapon supposedly never leaving Texas soil. She raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Military records were often creative fiction. While reassembling the rifle's trigger group, Maya reached for her compact cleaning kit, a leather case containing specialized tools accumulated over years. She thumbed open the brass clasps and lifted the lid. A polished medallion tumbled out onto the workbench with a soft chime. Maya froze, her hands hovering as if she'd uncovered a coiled rattlesnake. The medallion lay face up, its silver finish reflecting the fluorescent lighting. Roughly the size of a silver dollar, with intricate engravings marking it as something official, something important. The inscription in the center made her stomach clench. 427 confirmed eliminations. Below the number was a crosshair symbol with a single star, the mark of Task Force Phantom, a unit that existed in budget line items and nowhere else. Footsteps echoed from the stairwell. Rodriguez returning. Maya had maybe 10 seconds before he'd see her workstation clearly. Her fingers closed around the medallion, feeling its familiar weight. For a moment, she was transported back to when such tokens meant achievement rather than burden. The medallion had been presented in a ceremony that never officially happened, recognizing service that would never appear in public records. By the time Rodriguez reached her station, Maya had slipped it back in her kit, appearing to focus entirely on the Barrett's receiver. "How's it coming, Chen?" Rodriguez asked, leaning against her workbench. "Just carbon buildup and some sand," Maya replied without looking up. "Someone's been taking this rifle places it's not supposed to go." Rodriguez frowned. According to paperwork, the Barrett had never left the armory except for local training. But Chen had a reputation for finding problems others missed. "Any idea how long since proper maintenance?" he asked. Maya examined the barrel, where patterns told stories to those who knew how to read them. This barrel had stories written in carbon scoring that spoke of extensive combat use. "At least 8 months," she replied carefully. "Maybe longer, based on wear patterns." After Rodriguez left, Maya continued working, but her mind was no longer focused entirely on mechanics. The medallion's appearance had cracked open doors in her memory she'd spent 2 years learning to keep closed. She remembered the first time she held a Barrett in combat conditions. Its weight different when lives hung in the balance. The rifle had been her constant companion through 14 months of operations in countries that didn't appear on mission reports. She'd learned to read wind patterns like scripture, calculating bullet drop across distances that pushed human skill and mechanical precision to their limits. The medallion represented 427 threats neutralized, 427 missions completed, 427 reasons teammates came home alive. It also meant 427 faces that visited her dreams. Maya had reached a point where accumulated success became heavier than she could carry. Psychological evaluations found no PTSD, no breakdown. Instead, something more troubling, complete emotional detachment from violence, clinical precision that had replaced normal human responses. She turned down medical retirement, requesting transfer to a position where she could serve without killing. The armory assignment seemed perfect. For 2 years, she'd found peace in maintenance routines, satisfaction in problems solvable with proper tools and patience. But the medallion changed everything. Staff Sergeant Rebecca Hayes approached, settling into a chair beside Maya's workbench. "Rodriguez tells me you found interesting were patterns on that Barrett." Maya continued working, not trusting herself to meet Hayes's eyes directly. The staff sergeant had 18 years of experience and possessed institutional knowledge that made conversations feel like interrogations. "Nothing unusual," Maya replied carefully. "Just signs of harder use than paperwork suggests." Hayes picked up a clean component, examining it with knowledgeable eyes. "You know, Chen, I've seen enough weapons to recognize certain wear patterns. This bolt carrier shows sustained firing that only happens in specific circumstances." The observation hung between them, like an unasked question. "Combat weapons show different wear than training rifles," Maya replied. "Maybe this one saw overseas action before ending up here." Hayes set the component down with deliberate precision. "According to records, this rifle never left the continental U.S. Makes me wonder about all that desert sand you mentioned." Maya felt cold weight settling in her stomach. Hayes was building towards something, accumulating details that might eventually add up to dangerous conclusions. "Records aren't always complete," Maya said, finishing the Barrett's trigger installation. Hayes leaned back, studying Maya with patient attention. "True enough. But what interests me is your familiarity with this weapon system. Most techs need manuals to service a Barrett properly. You've been working like you've done this 1,000 times." The observation was accurate and dangerous. Maya had indeed serviced Barrett rifles hundreds of times, but that experience was supposed to be invisible. "I've always been interested in learning different systems," Maya replied, testing the bolt action with practice movements. "The Barrett's fascinating engineering." Hayes smiled without warmth. "Fascinating indeed. This isn't a weapon for general infantry use, Chen. It's specialized for specific applications requiring extensive training." Maya completed function testing and began organizing tools with methodical precision. She could feel Hayes cataloging every movement. "All weapons have their purpose," Maya said neutrally. "My job is ensuring they function properly." Hayes stood, brushing her uniform. "Of course, but some weapons have more specialized purposes. In the right hands, this Barrett can engage targets at ranges that challenge experienced marksmen. Requires very specific training to use effectively." The implications were becoming impossible to ignore. Hayes was stating her suspicion that Maya's background included precision rifle experience beyond basic maintenance. Maya closed her cleaning kit, ensuring the medallion was secure. "The Barrett's ready for tomorrow's demonstration. Full function testing complete." Hayes nodded slowly. "Excellent work, Chen. As always, your attention to detail is exactly what we need." After Hayes left, Maya stared at the perfectly maintained Barrett M107. The rifle represented intersection of her past and present, equipment bridging who she'd been and who she was trying to become. The next morning brought activity as technicians prepared for the day's demonstration. VIP visitors would witness impressive accuracy displays without comprehending the years of training required for such results. "Chen, perfect timing," Rodriguez called. "I need final checks on the Barrett, then stick around. The brass wants technical support standing by." Maya performed requested checks with mechanical precision, but found herself thinking about the demonstration differently. The visitors would see impressive displays, but wouldn't understand subtle factors determining whether capabilities could be fully realized. Staff Sergeant Hayes appeared, carrying a clipboard and wearing the expression of someone dealing with last-minute complications. "Chen, we got a problem. Our designated marksman came down with food poisoning. I need a replacement who can handle the Barrett competently enough to impress these visitors." Maya felt something shift in her chest, a stirring of possibilities she'd been suppressing for 2 years. She knew exactly who should be behind that rifle. Maya felt the weight of decision settling around her. 2 years of maintained anonymity was about to end. She reached into her cleaning kit, fingers finding the medallion. With deliberate movements, she placed it on the workbench between them. Hayes looked down, her eyes widening as she read the inscription. 427 confirmed eliminations. The crosshair symbol. The level of craftsmanship indicating official recognition from organizations that didn't officially exist. When she looked back up, her expression had shifted to something approaching awe. "Task Force Phantom," Hayes whispered, recognizing the symbol. "You're one of the ghosts." Maya nodded once. "Past tense. I've been out of active operations for 2 years." Hayes picked up the medallion with reverent care. As an 18-year veteran, she'd heard whispers about Task Force Phantom, specialists operating outside normal structures to handle problems requiring extreme precision. 427 confirmed eliminations. Hayes read aloud, barely audible. "That's not just experience, Chen. That's mastery most people can't comprehend." Maya took the medallion back. "It's also why I transferred out. Some numbers become too heavy to carry." Hayes understood immediately. She'd seen enough veterans to recognize someone pushed to psychological limits by their specialty's demands. "But the skills remain intact," Hayes said. "The skills remain intact," Maya confirmed. "Muscle memory doesn't fade, and technical knowledge stays current." Hayes glanced around, ensuring privacy. "Chen, I need to ask directly. Are you willing and able to handle the Barrett demonstration? Confident you can showcase its capabilities impressively?" Maya considered the question from multiple angles. "Consider it handled," Hayes said, then paused. "I have to ask, why now? Why expose your background for this situation?" Maya considered carefully. Her motivations were complex: frustration at watching potentially inferior marksmanship, but also deeper need to prove her skills remained intact. "Because this unit deserves representation by best available capability," she said finally. "And because I need to know whether I can still do what I used to do." The demonstration proceeded flawlessly. Maya's first shot, at 600 meters, struck dead center with metallic authority that rang across the range. The second target, at 900 meters, exploded in spectacular fashion. Her final shot, at 1,200 meters, a vehicle engine block, erupted dramatically as the .50 caliber projectile struck with devastating effect. The visiting dignitaries discussed what they'd witnessed with animated enthusiasm, suggesting genuine impression with demonstration effectiveness. But Maya knew her 2 years of anonymity were definitively over. The medallion in her kit represented more than past achievements. It was a reminder that some responsibilities transcended personal preferences. She developed capabilities few people possessed, and those capabilities carried obligations that didn't disappear because she wanted a different life. As evening settled over Camp Mitchell, Maya completed post-demonstration paperwork, knowing nothing would be normal about her situation going forward. Today had changed everything, revealing truths hidden for 2 years and setting consequences in motion she couldn't predict. The quiet armory technician who'd reported that morning no longer existed. In her place was someone whose capabilities had been recognized, whose background would now receive scrutiny that might reshape her future. Her medallion lay in its case. No longer a secret burden, but acknowledgement of skills that remained sharp as the day they were earned. 427 confirmed eliminations represented expertise the world still needed, even if she'd been trying to walk away from its demands. The Barrett M107 sat cleaned and ready, testament to both mechanical precision and human skill. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and difficult decisions. But tonight, Maya felt something she hadn't experienced in 2 years. Satisfaction of having applied her capabilities at highest level and achieved results exceeding every expectation. She was still the same person who'd walked into the armory that morning, but no longer pretending to be anyone else. The demonstration had stripped away carefully maintained anonymity and revealed the truth about who she really was. Now she would decide what to do with that truth and how to move forward in a world reminded of exactly what she was capable of achieving.